Aloha. I am Asia Iyer, and I am here with Maui Pono Network for an important and exciting workshop that we're doing this evening. We've invited Lance Collins, who is the current chairperson of the Charter Commission of the County of Maui. And we're excited to hear from him on how the public can be more involved in this Charter Commission process. And so we'll turn it over to Lance to introduce himself, tell a little bit more about what he's done up to this point and what he sees for the public involvement with the Charter Commission, as well as the process for this upcoming year, and about a year and a half, actually. Afterwards, we'll ask some questions and get some clarification, but I'll leave it to you now, Lance.
Thank you very much, and thank you very much for inviting me here this evening. I'm Lance Collins. I'm an attorney in private practice on the island of Maui. I presently live in Makawao, and I was the compiler and the indexer of the proceedings of the Charter Commissions of the County of Maui from 1964 to 2012. If you're very interested in the history of the charters of the County of Maui, I definitely recommend that you either go online to the Maui Charter Archive website, or actually the county has taken all of those scanned documents and have incorporated it into the Charter Commission's own website on the county website. And that's something you can definitely look at. And there's transcriptions of the events that went on for the last 60 years. Some of it's very interesting. I also have co-edited a couple of books on Maui history and Maui politics. Tourism Impacts West Maui, social change in West Maui, and one actually coming out tomorrow is Civil Society in West Maui. And so my interest is, of course, in analyzing and better understanding human beings that live in Maui County. So this year, I was one of the 11 individuals who were appointed to the Charter Commission. And the Charter Commission's purpose is to study the operations and functioning of the government and possibly propose amendments to the Charter that relate to the administrative structure and organization of the county that's in the charter. And the process, which has occurred more or less every 10 years for the last 40 years, and a little bit more frequently before that, is that the charter commissions have first tried to receive initial input from various stakeholders within the county. Then there's some study, some review of proposals, and then there's after some of the major issues have started to be talked about in the commission, then there's sort of a second casting of the net for public input. And then there's usually a slate of proposals that go out and then that are put up for the ballot, and then the pro side and the con side step up and argue what they want to. Occasionally, the council has proposed alternate proposals. So I think this charter commission is a little bit different than previous charter commissions, because previous charter commissions were appointed by the mayor. And this charter commission, 9 of the 11 members were appointed by the county council, and 2 were appointed by the mayor. So this commission's makeup, I think, is a little more diverse in terms of ideologies and positions and world and life experiences. So it'll be very interesting to see how the events of this charter commission unfold in relation to previous charter commissions. Our state has the most centralized government in the United States. We have the most powerful governor of all of the 50 governors of the 50 states. And so the counties are established by the state constitution, and they are given as much power over whatever issues to have power over that is given to it either by the state constitution or the state legislature. Counties do not, I think what people understand in some places as home rule, our counties do not have that at all. There is no absolute home rule. We follow what's called the Dillon's rule, which is that only the powers that are given to the counties can the county exercise. In addition, the county has the power to exercise whatever powers are necessary and proper to execute those powers. But the counties have no inherent power, unlike other states where the basic unit of governance is the county, and basically the state's powers are enumerated, and counties exercise sort of this inherent power to do whatever they want. So counties in Hawaii do not have that. We're quite limited. So the general rule is that the Constitution is the most basic and fundamental document, and then followed by that would be state statutes, and then followed by that would be agency administrative rules. That's sort of the order of precedence of what, if there's a conflict between any of those documents, you start with the Constitution, then state law, then administrative rules. And until 1968, the charter was basically considered an administrative rule. It was given the same precedence as an administrative rule. So basically, if it conflicted with anything, the charter was invalid. So in 1968, that changed. So where the charter provides for the administrative structure or organization of the county, that supersedes state law. So it's in this new position between the Constitution and state statute. However, there's a limitation to that. The legislature can still pass laws of statewide importance that basically will overrule certain things related to county operations. So that sort of, I think in a nutshell, summarizes what the county is. Most of the county's powers are found in Chapter 46 of the Hawaii Revised Statutes. And most of the powers within Chapter 46 is in Section 1.5. And then the only other sort of major county power they're all major county powers, but the other one that most people are probably familiar with is the zoning and planning powers. And that's in 46-4. The Hawaii Supreme Court has not had any difficulty in limiting too much open exercise of power with respect to county powers. So that's something to keep in mind. So it's the county does not have, the main point is our county does not have true home rule. Everything is founded on state law, and there's limitations, both easily understood and some of these more esoteric, indirect ways in which county powers are limited. But there is a whole, then in the range where the county clearly does have power, there's a broad array of choices that can be made with respect to the administrative structure and organization. So that gets me to the second question, which is, what is the charter? So I mentioned it briefly in describing in what is the county, but the charter is like the constitution of a state, but it's like the constitution of the county. And its primary function is to describe the executive, legislative, and administrative structure and organization of our local government. But the charter is supposed to be this broad framework that describes how power is allocated in the county government, with the limitations that are placed on it by state law and by the state constitution. So just in recent examples, the question of what is the function and role of the mayor? That was something that was on the ballot this last election. That's one example of something that has huge ramifications and relates directly to the executive, legislative, administrative structure and organization of the county. Council members, what are their qualifications? What is the size of their district? What is the process by which they're elected? All of those things are things that are appropriate for the charter. Who exercises the county's zoning and planning powers? Who's in charge of the police? Who's in charge of prosecuting crimes? Who's in charge of the municipal water supply? Who deals with paving streets, picking up rubbish? Dealing with sewage, dealing with the buses, dealing with county civil defense and emergency management. All of those are things that are in the charter and are all things that can be modified by the charter as well. So so the importance of the charter is that, unlike what would occur in an initiative and referendum situation, or what would occur in front of the county council or planning commission, is that the changing the charter affects how all of those bodies operate. That's the purpose of the charter, and the purpose of the charter commission is to study how is that going, and is there a need for improvement, and if there is, then those proposals are proposed to the electorate at the next election. So yes, and I should say, sorry, I was going to say this at the beginning, and then I kind of did a detour. That there is more information about like the role of the county and its relationship to the state, and what is the purpose of the charter, in a presentation that Deputy Corporation Counsel Keola Whitaker did for the Charter Commission about a month ago. It should be available on the Commission's website, and hopefully that will be appended to this somehow. And also Dr. Ron Williams, who's a former professor at the Kamakakuokalani Center for Hawaiian Studies and is presently works for the Hawaii State Archives. He did a presentation at the last Charter Commission meeting about the history of local governance in Hawaii starting in 1840, and basically talked about pre-American governance in the 19th century. But he also does talk about the early territorial period. It's very fascinating. If you have an hour, I would definitely consider watching the video, if not just running through his slides. Yeah, so I mean, there's a whole bunch of other issues that I didn't talk about. He touches on some of them, but those are both presentations to look forward to. And also the Charter Commission, I think we're planning on having a number of other presentations about these issues too. So definitely take a look at our agendas and see what those presentations are, because they hopefully are going to give everybody on the commission and members of the public more information on how to think about what is possible, and what should be looked at or what shouldn't be looked at, or what the focus is. So definitely stay tuned for that, and if you can join us, please do, because it's for everybody's education and convenience.
Thank you so much, Lance. We are so fortunate to have you serving on the Charter Commission. Aren't we we the people of Maui County are so thankful, because not only are you knowledgeable, but you're just responsible and care for all of our concerns, I know. And to have someone with as much knowledge and background in charter issues and charter governance and all of the other aspects we're just really fortunate. So thank you for serving. I'd like to start off, I know everyone has some clarifying questions they'd like to ask. My first question has to do with something you said right at the beginning, and that I didn't realize that the first aspect of the Charter Commission is to study the government and how it's functioning currently, and then make recommendations. So I guess my question is, how are you expecting the public to get involved in these public hearings? Whereas the public hearings have the information at the beginning, a lot of the comments, they're not at the beginning. First, we have comments from the public, and then we have these great informational sessions. But a lot of people have been asking in their testimony, how am I supposed to participate? And what are you asking for when you have these public hearings? We don't even know really where to go. So what do you kind of hope to hear from the public when they come on these public hearings?
So, and maybe each commissioner has their own view or preference. I think the general idea is that individuals who have concerns with how county operations are functioning or the organization of county government can bring their concern. I mean, it's always much better to get a written proposal that specifically in Ramsey format underscores what's going to be added to the charter and brackets or crosses out what should be removed. It's always nice, but on the other hand, not everybody's a legislative analyst or an attorney, so that can't be expected. I think what is expected from the general public, if they want to participate, if they at this moment have suggestions for how to change something, like I don't think this is working in county government, and I think it would be better this way. It would basically be to tell us that and to give the reasons in support of that, and we will have our people. We've hired a legislative analyst who's actually a well-respected, internationally well-known and well-respected attorney, Sherry Broder, who, with her late husband, John Van Dyke, actually has advised the commission two previous in 2000 and also in 2010's commission. So yeah, it's going to be her job to do that. So it's the public's job of telling us what needs to change. And it's also possible that at this exact moment, maybe some people are not sure, or they want to hear more information, or they need more time to study, and that's totally fine. We'll be taking public input until the end. And so, what some people may need is to hear more of the educational presentations that we've been having at some of these meetings, and then it will basically help create somewhat of a framework to help people think about, well, what are the kinds of things that could be improved. So definitely not expecting anybody to be a constitutional scholar overnight, or even to be able to frame what would be needed to be submitted to the voters, but definitely at least the ideas of why they think these ideas are good. That's the important thing, at least at this moment. Even if it's something that might be outside of our bailiwick, it's something that can still be possibly looked at. So yeah, don't be shy. Don't self-limit if you're not sure. Better to suggest it and us say it's outside of our thing than to not say it and find out it's something that could have been done. Yeah.
All right. We have a couple guests here tonight, and one of them is our esteemed guest, Carolee Kamakona. So I'd like to turn it to her to ask her question.
Aloha. Mahalo for allowing me to be here and participate. Awesome presentation, Lance, as always. Mahalo plenty. No komana'o. Basic question. As a kupuna who is not ma'a to this technology, how are you going to educate me? How are you going to reach out to me? Are you going to be doing flyers, pamphlets? What? Kupuna want to know.
So thank you. That's a good question. The Charter Commission voted to hire a community outreach person who will basically be working with and for the commission from as soon as they get hired, which can't be any earlier than July 1st, until the Charter Commission ends its mandate. And so those kinds of things of reaching out to particular groups and how they go about doing it, that's something that's going to be that person's job. And I'm not really following the budget, but my understanding was that the council did put in the funding for that position. So that will actually also be a new thing versus previous charter commissions, because previous charter commissions, community outreach has not been a focus. But this commission voted that it is so important that we'll actually have somebody whose job, basically full-time job, will be to gather community input and to allow there to be an iterative process between the commission and the public, so that it can be more community outreach oriented.
So you kind of answered it, but didn't. And the reason I say that is, again, if they're going to do community outreach, kupuna need healo a healo, yeah? So how are you going to do that with the current situation that we are in? Kupuna can't get on this kinds of Zoom meetings or blue jeans or what have you. So how are you going to reach those in Molokai? How are you going to reach those in Lanai? Yeah? That's what I'm asking. How are you going to physically connect with that kupuna who has no access to any of this kind of technology?
Yeah, so I actually don't have an answer for that, partly because I don't get to decide what the commission does. The commission decides what the commission's going to do. So I'm not entirely sure what the answer to that question is. I think the reason why I answered it with we're going to have this outreach person is because I think they're the ones that are going to have to come up with basically their plan of addressing the accessibility issues that you're describing. And then the commission will have to say yes or no to it as a body. But I do think it is an issue, and I do think that the commission should address it without me saying how they should address it. But I do think this person who's going to be hired as a full-time person will be the person that has primary responsibility for that.
Thank you so much. That is such a timely and important question. I'll make sure to keep that on everyone's mind on the commission. So Daniel has a question. Go ahead, Daniel.
Aloha, Lance. Thank you so much for all your wisdom. I can tell even from the presentations, you know your stuff. So I'm really curious what I can do in order to know my stuff as well. So obviously we're all looking to educate ourselves here. So aside from printing out or looking for a copy of the county charter, what other sources could you point to us for as far as our own personal education that we can go to?
So if you have the time to do more than just read through the charter, another area worth looking at or into would be the Maui County Code, because those are the ordinances that the council with the mayor or over the mayor's veto have passed, which basically implement the state law powers through the organization of the charter. And so by going through that, it may give individuals more ideas or avenues to think about what are areas where the county affects the community, where there might be room for improvement. Because sometimes when you read the charter, it's very broad and abstract and general, whereas the Maui County Code is very specific. So obviously the Charter Commission's role is not to change the Maui County Code or the specific legislative enactments that are in there, but if you do have the time and you go through the Maui County Code, it will give you a much better idea of how the charter structure actually affects the day-to-day operations of the county. It's also very, very organized. You don't have to read every single word on it. You can just, go by chapter or go by section and that sort of thing, and give you an idea of and it'll tell you who in the county is, exercising that power. Well, they're exercising that power because the charter says that they get to exercise that power. So there no ordinances never conflict with the charter because they're implementing the charter. So that's why the county code is a great second stop after the charter.
Great. Okay. Thank you, Lance.
Okay. Paul also has a question. Go ahead, Paul.
Lance, if you could just describe a little bit more in detail as how people could actually participate in giving their input, their testimonies, whether they be written or oral, the process of the 3-minute thing and the overview.
Sure. So the commission has adopted a rule that limits oral testimony to 3 minutes. I do think that what is more effective is to have whatever proposals and the reasons for it in writing, and to submit that before the meeting, and then use the 3 minutes to summarize what you consider to be sort of the significant or sort of bang for your buck moments in the discussion that you have in your writing. But definitely this particular commission, it's much more helpful to do it in writing, because that's everything. What we're supposed to do is propose something in writing to the voters. So our job is much more textually based than, say, a planning commission or even the county council. I mean, they also are involved with writing, but a lot of yes/no votes are just based on feeling. So they're not really required to be text based or that sort of thing. So that would be my suggestion. But if that's not how people communicate information, then just do it in the way that you're most comfortable and able to do.
Lance, I have the question. What is the value of having a commission versus just having the council recommend amendments or vote amendments to be on the ballot? What's the value of a commission?
So the idea of the commission is it's sort of like a mini form of a constitutional convention. And so the idea is that it's supposed to allow some cross-section of the community to come together and have an alternate opportunity to make proposals to change the county government that might not be able to garner the appropriate number of votes in the council. The hope is that by having a commission, it allows basically an alternate forum that isn't, people aren't worried about getting reelected or they're not, entrenched and so forth. And as long as the commissioners do represent a diverse span of the community, that's possible.
Thank you. Carolee, do you want to go ahead?
People can bring up whatever they want, and you guys are going to determine whether or not it's within your purview, correct?
Well, there's a two-step process. So one is are these things that relate to the county's executive, legislative, administrative structure and organization?
Right.
So if the answer to that is no, then no, we will not further consider it. But of all of the proposals that do relate to the executive, legislative, and administrative structure and organization, for sure, those are all things that the commission should take a look at, all of those issues. And we think of proposing new things, but another thing the commission can also do is excise things from the structure. That is something to also look at. That proposals can be proposals to remove things, or to scramble things, or it doesn't have to be just adding new things.
So can you guys add something to the county that doesn't exist in this state?
As long as it's permitted by the state constitution and by state law.
But what if it's not, like you have other governments, state governments, county governments that have these kinds of issues? Would that need to go to ledge then, to be approved first in ledge and then county can adopt?
It depends on what the proposal is. If the proposal is something that it's a power the county can exercise, it doesn't need a change by the state legislature. If it's a power that the county is not given by the state or the state constitution, that would require a change in state law.
We appreciate you so much, Lance, and we know how busy you are, and we are so thankful that you have come tonight to talk with us. And yes, thank you. We got some applause back there. Yes.
My pleasure. Thank you for inviting me.
For those of you listening and have participated through watching this or listening to it, we invite you to listen to the Charter Commission meetings, which are held a couple times a month. And you can find the information about that on the county website or on mauipononetwork.org. We also have the upcoming Charter Commission meetings there. And as Lance said, these meetings that are being held through April and May are public hearings, but that doesn't mean you can't submit testimony for any of the Charter Commission meetings. And Lance also made a recommendation that send a written testimony and a spoken testimony. Just highlight the emotional and the summary of your written testimony in your verbal testimony, and then that helps you maybe be more impactful. We just want to send our mahalos out to everybody on the commission and for the hard work that they're doing, and we thank all of them for representing us and to doing their best to just be a voice of the public in our county's administration. So we're just really excited for this. We also invite everyone to stay tuned, stay informed. And, the hardest part to me is going to be when the Charter Commission's recommendations come onto the ballot, because that's when we need all of our neighbors, our friends, Kapuna, everyone around to feel like they've been involved in the process and that their voice has been heard and that these amendments represent all of us here in our county. Again, my name is Asia Iyer. I'm here with Maui Pono Network and some other guests, and we thank Lance Collins for being here tonight. And aloha and have a nice evening or rest of your day.